We are live on Facebook, and I'm going to close this window so I'm not distracted by it.
Perfect.
All right, so to the group, welcome to our live on Tuesdays, usually at 11 o'clock. I've been fiddling with the time to kind of figure out what's best for this group, but 11 o'clock seems to be pretty good. So this is Carrie May. We met through mutual colleague or friend, not friend, well, my friend, a few mutual customer. So we started working together because I was trying to unravel some stuff in their business, and I was seeking out a different web-based opportunity for us to be able to manage some of the things in their business. And I came across Carrie May, and thankfully I did, because this woman, she's gold. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on here. I feel very honored. Much appreciated.
Appreciate you being on here. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know there's a lot there.
Philosophical. It's actually 9 a.m. here, so we won't get too deep in the mustard on that one, but I'll tell you what I do for a living. I am a global strategist and started my career actually in the marketing industry around search engine optimization, which led into obviously a long tier of things through the course of time. My background is actually in education. I have a master's degree in education, and kind of shifted my focus from education when I realized that you can't be a single mom on $29,000 a year USD. It ain't gonna happen. So I went into adult education, which turned into business cultivation, which turned into essentially where we are now. So my primary focus now, my primary role is the COO of Booking Times, which is a scheduling software, essentially as Shopify is to e-commerce and WordPress is to blog content, we are to service-based industry. So the one major component that everybody misses is, how do you manage your business? Well, all business and all transactions of money are a transaction of time. It's just what they are. I don't care what you pay for, it costs you X amount of hours to earn that money. And that currency is widely overlooked and undermanaged. And so I was actually consulting for a large driving school in New York City, looking for a way to manage that school from Utah, from my cell phone.
I was gonna say, you're out west.
While fishing, yeah, that was my goal, is to figure out a way where I could streamline those operations and manage those times. But, and there's so many variables that come into play. There's each independent instructor, each employee. There's how long it takes one employee to get from point A to point B versus another employee to get from point A to point B and back, and pickups and drop-offs. And then you add in the general public. So my role with Booking Times essentially is to create a connection between the client's needs and the software itself, and retrofit that software or customize that software to fit their needs, while on the other side, talking with the client about what their long-term goals are. And it happens very
That's a lot of stuff.
Oh, it's a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's a lot. And we started a pilot program last year with our mutual connection, actually, where we took SEO and we flipped it on its head. So the biggest problem that we've had with search engine optimization, and my biggest pain point, and the reason I didn't stay in the marketing industry competing in that world, is you're guilty by association. You just are. And this is not to the discredit of all SEO firms. Not everyone is disloyal. Not everyone is trying to rip you off. Most of them are. And there's no way to quantify or qualify what they're telling you, because there are too many moving parts and pieces. And so when everybody's getting their monthly keyword report, after paying $2,000 a month for these 20 keywords that they're getting a report on every month, I promise, the day that report comes out on your keyword allocation, they're running that report 4 or 5 times. And during the course of that 4 or 5 times, or maybe even 20 times during the day, those numbers move. So they're looking for the report that makes them look great. And as long as you see some movement in the positive direction on some keywords, nobody asks any questions. Wow. So there's zero way for you to say, I'm getting my money back from my investment. So when we looked at SEO, first of all, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it because I'm very, very good at it, but it takes a lot of work. It's very tedious. It's very time consuming, and no one's going to see the results of your work for, anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks at a bare minimum. If you're exceptionally good, you can get some movement sooner than that, especially if you know some of the sneaky hacks that I know. But usually people's patience runs out before the results show up. And then once the results show up, they've hired a firm for slightly lower with bigger guarantees that come in. Your results now show up within the first week or two of them being on board. And then it's catastrophe from there. They unravel everything that you've done. So everything that we do now is predicated on a deep, deep understanding of what search engine optimization is now, not what it was 5 years ago. And if you have a business degree and you studied marketing and communications and you graduated in 2015, top of your class, magna cum laude, congratulations, everything you know is completely useless, even if you went to the world's greatest school. Yeah. So I'm a huge proponent for YouTube education. I'm a huge proponent for knowing what you're buying and knowing what you're investing in. So we set up a la carte. There's the initial on-site optimization. That's important. But when people say, well, I want to be known for best gym near me, I want to be known for the world's greatest landscaper, and that's great, but what is the search volume behind that? And what are the odds that somebody is holding a credit card in their hand when they type that in? Unless you're selling pizza, it's not likely. They're doing research. If they're looking for a qualifying term like best, then they're deciding by looking likely at your reviews. So that was a really long way around what I do and how I got here. But essentially, we've structured a system to help people not only do their own SEO, which is vitally important, but once they've done that and made it through our crash course and boot camp, now they can manage anyone that comes in. Nobody has the time to write a blog article once a week. And maybe it's not even necessary for your business. Somebody told you it was, so you've been hashing out this crap content at 2 o'clock in the morning because, by God, you saw it on YouTube somewhere. Content is king. Great. No, it's not. It's not anymore. It's important. It's a key metric, but it's not king. So we want people to be able to actually, we want them to know what they're buying. We want them to know how to manage it. We want them to know what it looks like when there are positive results and what they should be expecting and the difference between what they are expecting, because it's huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you take me through a scenario? Like, let's use your fishing cup.
Oh, sure.
So we're promoting that beautiful cup. Looks like
yes, we are.
And
Montana fly fishing, y'all. Yep.
Oh yes. I think we've got a couple of fisher people in this group, so
excellent.
That. I know if I can get outside and fishing, I get super excited. It's a little touch and go here in Canada. As I mentioned, we're still in lockdown, so boats are not allowed to be in the water. We're not allowed to be doing anything really except for going to the grocery store. So
what good is a fence if it's not crossed? I'm just
So let's promote this cup. So what has to happen on your end to be able to really optimize the search engine and be able to get the reviews, and what's different than content when it comes to this beautiful cup that we're trying to promote?
All right, so there is a big difference between a national brand, and a localized brand. So we'll likely need to talk about both of those things. Everything now, if you take out all the technical, we'll get to the technical. Okay, it really is a very logical process that everybody messes up. They start a business, and the first thing is, well, you need a logo. So they throw together a logo very quickly without any consideration for anything. They name the business Bob's Fish Cups and create a legacy behind it. And I love you, Bob, I do. But if you're going to sell this company, if it's going to have any intrinsic value in the future, do not name it Bob's Cups. Don't name it Bob's Cups. Don't name it after yourself. I know you're proud. I know that you self-identify with this business, but take a second and consider something other than yourself. Consider your customer. What does your customer want? What does it mean to them? Now, in that particular instance, Bob's Fishing Cups actually probably isn't a stretch, especially if your name is George or Henry or Frank, because Bob is kind of consistent with, you know, a little old man on the river who's fishing with a bamboo pole. So I would play up on that if that was the case and that what was dealt to me. But you need to decide from the very beginning who it is you're targeting. And people fail to recognize the differences in language, in presentation for their customers. So if I am selling fishing cups or cups with fish print on them, who's my target market for that? Well, it's the fishing community. Okay, so step one, the fishing community is very broad, especially since Patagonia came out and made it a household name for every millennial in Denver. No offense to anyone. And they actually kind of destroyed their brand because the fishing community is very, very tight knit. And they all have a common understanding that if you're fishy, you have a certain mindset, and that's very goose fra ba. So from the beginning, here's what we do. We come up with a name, and that is going to be the hardest thing that you do, but it's going to set the stage for everything moving forward. Once you've established a name and why, what's your why? Okay, now we have a why. Now we write a mission statement. Congratulations, everyone. You have single-handedly wrote the very most important piece of content you will ever publish ever. And it's also your about page on your website. We're telling a story. So the thing is, people want to say, well, I just want to show up in the searches. Okay, if you're e-commerce, about 82% of all e-commerce starts on Amazon. Not a Google search, an Amazon search.
Wow.
That's a staggering amount. So #1 platform for e-commerce sales as of right now, that's without a doubt going to be on your Amazon account. Seller Central, they're going to take 13.5%. They're going to rake you over the coals on all of your shipping and distribution, or you're going to have to walk a fine line. And it's highly finicky. It's like dating the beauty queen from Wichita. Okay, it's going to be temperamental. It's going to be very, very temperamental and a little high strung. So be prepared for that. Google is the runner up. All right, she's a little less fickle and a little more humble.
Okay, Google's a she.
Yeah, well, that's what we're going with because
okay.
because I've just had too many ups and downs along the way to think that it's a very simple structure. Okay. But the way you present it and the way you handle it can turn it into a simple structure. So great. Now we've decided that an e-com platform is going to be Amazon. Well, keywords are very important here, and the way you set up your product is important here. So search engine optimization has to include and encompass a broader variety. But if I were pitching fishing cups for people who I thought would be in love with them, I'm going to probably consider, after doing some research into what all of my competitors are marketing towards. Now, keep in mind, they publish this stuff. It's everywhere. If you go to one of your competitors' websites that's doing exceptionally well, a brand that you know and recognize, and this is your passion product, who are they targeting? And you reverse engineer what they're doing, decide which parts line up with you from a battery of different places. You look at what the market saturation is to determine where your price points need to be versus your cost. Get that set where you're actually going to be profitable, everybody. And some people don't take that into consideration. They want to build it because they love it so much. And again, this is an investment of your time. So if you are willing to invest your time for free so other people can enjoy your beautiful cup that was $28, and I have had it for a very long time, there's a fish on the inside. Okay, they made a profit on me, because I guarantee you that this cup, even with the enamel and the paint, probably cost them around $2.15. I'm not an idiot, I get it. And I really genuinely don't care where it was made, and have never actually looked. So what they're selling to me is a feeling. Cool. So now you start structuring your website to convey that feeling. That even though I'm sitting in front of a computer screen, 2 very large computer screens for the vast majority of my day, I've got my fishing cup for a few minutes in the morning, and I am on the Gallatin with a fly rod, and I'm okay. Everything's good. That's the feeling that we're trying to capture. So the language that you use needs to be that. Stop thinking about SEO. When you go to a website and I see fishing fanatic, trout painted cup, for Father's Day. You took all the fun out of it for me. You did. You robbed me of my victory of finding it. I don't want to see that. How about a hot cup of coffee on the river right from your door, or right from your kitchen table? Be on the river, take yourself there. Something along those lines, where we're starting to convey the story. Stop doing the keywords, because Google has changed. They're not the same anymore. And if you don't believe me, everybody who's watching this, take a few minutes, go to Google and type in current price of OSTK stock, and tell me what you see. What you're going to see is at the top of the screen on Google is the current ticker for OSTK. It's going to tell you where it's sitting, what the price is. It's also going to show you a graph below. Not interested in stocks? Cool. Go look for banana bread recipe. And what are you going to see? 80% of the recipe is going to show up right there at the top of the search. So now we have what's called search only results. Search only results are taking over the world, but why? Well, Google tried, okay? Google tried very hard with Google Plus to compete with Facebook and with Twitter, Instagram, everything else. And they couldn't. It flopped. You ever notice that your Google Plus account isn't active anymore? Congratulations, everyone. You should take that link off the bottom of your page, because it doesn't go anywhere or to anything. What they're doing now is they're hyper-focusing on geolocations, and they're parsing your website for schema markup to present those results. Now, if you're smart, you'll scroll below that, because that banana bread recipe is not great, everyone. And the OSTK prices are usually a little bit laggy. So you're going to need to find a better resource. But nobody wants to look that hard. Nobody wants to try that hard. So what Google has done is they have figured out how to keep their traffic on their website. They're keeping everybody on the search results pages, but why? Not everybody has cookies installed. Not everybody is tracking analytics, which means if you move from Safari or from your cell phone Explorer to a website, they break that connection. Google is not a search engine. They are an AI company. They are tracking your behavior so they understand exactly how you think and what you do, which is why sometimes you'll start thinking even about a particular gift, maybe circumventing some ideas around doing a project maybe, and all of a sudden there's videos that show up. Mm-hmm. Anybody else been freaked out by that in some way, shape, or form? You're looking on your cell phone at Amazon, you go.
Oh, you're muted.
Guys,
there you go.
I should have off of that. Okay, so they're tracking your behavior. If you're not okay with that, get over it, because Amazon's doing the exact same thing. At this very moment, my little A-word person is listening to every word that I say. She knows.
That's creepy.
Yeah. I know. and what I've decided is I'm just not that interesting. So there you go. I'll get world famous, and the NSA can come a knocking. But essentially what it's doing is tracking your behavior also. Amazon is trying to catch up to that. Now they've done a much better job on the e-com side of things in terms of actually capturing revenue throughout the course of time, but Google does very well with their ad campaigns. So your objective is to be authentic, Bob's Cups. Be authentic. Your people will find you, but you need to be actively engaged and very social with your people. And you need to tell your story. Just tell it, because they're not necessarily going to identify with the brand right off. When Nike came out, nobody knew what a Nike was or why there's a swoosh involved. Why does Apple have a weird apple with a bite out of it? Nobody necessarily cares about that, but instantaneously, as soon as they see that, there's a feeling or an emotion behind it. Those who like.
Oh, you're muted again. There you go.
Oh my goodness, I'm just gonna go into do not contact mode. Sorry guys, busy person. When they see the Apple, they feel, one way or the other. Maybe they're in love with the Apple products and they have the Apple TV and the Apple picture frames and the Apple phone, Apple pods, apples everywhere. How do you like them apples? And then there's people who like software that is malleable. So when they see Apple, they don't assimilate that with connection and simplicity and ease. They connect that with restriction. And everybody's different. Who they're targeting are the people who want the simple platform. And that's great. That's wonderful. They've done exceptionally well, but they tell their story very, very well. Technology for the masses. And they've also written a very profound mission statement. And as soon as that was written, it took them to new heights. If you haven't read it, I strongly recommend that you do as you're formatting your own mission statement. But if you come to me and you say, I want to do search engine optimization, and I say, great, send me your mission statement, and I never hear back from you, bon voyage, bro. Not that I'm trying to be rude, but I can't help you. I can't help you tell your story if there isn't one. I can't help you reach your people if I don't know who your people are, and neither do you.
So as we're talking about this, it sounds like Google's really the place to make sure Google understands your story versus some of the other spaces. Is that what I'm gathering?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So
what are the tactics behind that would allow a small business to actually do that without, like you said, a blog all the time and really spending a ton of time on content? Like what are the nitty gritty on how to get your story out there?
So if you have a website that is 10,000 pages deep that you built in 2002 when bandwidth was a consideration. So every product that you had a dedicated landing page with 500 words on it and 3 images and here's your H1 tags, H2 tags, and I can break all of that down if you'd like. If you're operating on a website like that, keep in mind that Google doesn't necessarily give you all of the time that I'm sure you deserve because you're brilliant and wonderful and put all this work in. They're going to scrape your priority pages. They're going to take into consideration what's on those pages that's relevant for the individual who's coming to your website. So bounce rate is more important than it ever has been, as is your Alexa ranking. So the amount of time that somebody spends on your website becomes very, very important. So the next time you're shopping for a plugin, including a payment processor, perhaps like PayPal, that takes somebody off of your website to their website for any reason, keep in mind that that's still a bounce. If you have subdomains set up, those are considered different properties. So Google knows when somebody goes to your website, when they click on that link. They may not know what you do or how you interact, but they know how long you stay there. And then they know when you leave. So if you're looking for a keto meal in Salt Lake City, Utah, done it plenty of times, and you click on the link and you go there and you say, this is fried chicken, not going to work for me. And you immediately leave without looking at any other secondary.
Oh, you muted yourself again.
Of all that is holy. The next time somebody comes to your website and is attempt, or the next time somebody searches for keto meals, you're less likely to come up. Maybe just a fraction of a percent. But if Google knows that when somebody types in those words, even though you have keto meals on all of your images and you have keto verbiage everywhere hidden underneath the surface, as soon as somebody goes there and they're immediately leaving, that's more proof of concept for Google than the keywords that are on your page. So one time, 9 million years ago, when the first algorithm came out for keywords, there was a common misconception. It was actually highly effective at the time. And there were a lot of big businesses that did this. They would take, let's say, a black screen or a black background, and in the black background, they would code text, lines and lines of text, repeating the same keyword over and over and over again. So if that was computer, and we're talking about IBM back in the beginning of time, before the Dead Sea was still sick, then IBM puts on their, best computer, cheapest computer, a home computer over and over again in the back. Okay, immediately, I'm so sorry. Immediately, people are taken to those search results instantaneously. And then that was great and wonderful for those who could afford to do that and knew what was going on behind the covers, because they had a full staff of people. But then porn sites started doing it. Yeah. So we had websites who were maybe not what you want your kid to find while they're playing Oregon Trail. I did that. I was very good at it. Yeah, so good. But they would click over the internet while they're at school and do a little browsy for things like basketball shoes, and all of a sudden they're taken to this XXX site. So Google said, we're going to have to tighten that up. We're going to have to change the way we did that. So keyword stuffing became a black hat tactic, and the word black hat came into play. So now you have people who advertise on white hat. Well, what does that mean? That's a very good question on strategy, but reputation is everything. Okay, reputation is going to be critically important. So people stripped all the keywords out of their sites. They placed them in the H1 tags, H2 tags, H3 tags. So let's talk about that a little bit, because it's more important than people know. Consider a website like a series of books. Okay, so let's look at it like the Harry Potter series. Your website is the Harry Potter series, and the Harry Potter series has a name. It's the Harry Potter series. There's your first meta tag title, the Harry Potter series. Now, every page inside of your website is its own book. Okay, and every page or every book has a table of contents. In the table of contents is your H1s, H2s, H3s. So consider an H1 to be like a chapter inside of your book. All you're doing is you're telling the crawlers as they come through the website, this is my book, this is my homepage, which has its own title. This is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It's the biggest one. It's my cornerstone content. It's the most important. Please look at this one first. You need to tell your story, or at least give a good idea of who you are, what you do, and where you do it within the first 15 seconds of somebody hitting your website.
Wow.
Get rid of the stupid slider, everybody. Get rid of it. Nobody is there long enough to see all of your slides, nor do they want to see a single line of content. This needs to be very direct and very straightforward, and most of your searches are going to come from a cell phone, which is a new fun change. Okay, so within 30 seconds, it's called the fold. If you're looking at a computer screen, that's everything that you see displayed without having to scroll down. You need to make sure that you've got your H1 set. Your meta tag title is going to be what shows up on the search engine results pages. So just be straightforward. Just be straightforward. It's very logical. It's very organized. Be direct. And remember always that the average consumer in the United States, and this varies a little bit country to country, but the average consumer reads on an 8th grade reading level. And that includes everyone. Although you may be a PhD and a neurosurgeon, and we're all very impressed, and we think that you are amazing and incredible. If you're telling me about a nerve supplement and you get into the nitty-gritty details about the biology of my brain, I'm going to be overwhelmed. I'm not going to think that this product is going to help me. I'm going to be very overwhelmed. You need to dumb it down. And it's not that you're trying to lower your brand integrity. It's not that you're trying to be deceptive in some way, shape, or form. You're trying to connect. So be intelligent, be very clear, use great language, but something that's easily consumable, and move forward from there. So great. Now you've got the logic behind a website, nitty gritty details. Now, if you want to play hardball, you need to know what the best practices are in terms of how that information is delivered. So again, setting your schema markup. So maybe you can be that snippet of information that shows up in the search engines, but only give them enough that it's going to drive people back to your website. Make a big, big play on that. And you'll be surprised to find that 7,000 apps from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to sleep. That's how many you see.
Say that again.
7,000 ads on average from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. So take into consideration, here's my son's football.
Oh, I got one of those.
Right. So we have ESPN printed on the side of that. You think that's an advertisement?
Of course.
Absolutely. How about the can of Coke that you drank, or the water that you bought at the store yesterday? It's smart, right? 7,000 ads. We are predispositioned, the psychology with marketing is we are predispositioned to say no as a protective measure. The very first impulse reaction of someone's brain now is to say no. Then it becomes a justification of why. Nobody wants to be sold to anymore. They want to be incentivized with the decision to buy. So language becomes very important, and that varies, again, vastly on your client base. So for Bob's Cups, if we circle back around, if our target is fanatic fishermen between the ages of 45 and 80, quite likely, I'm not going to start with Google. I'm going to start with Bing.
Huh. Okay. Interesting.
Ask me why.
An audience.
Yeah. Well, why would I go with Bing? Google's way bigger. Well, let's say that this generation actually has a computer. They're not doing this search from a cell phone. They aren't. They actually, and we're going direct to consumer. We're not circumventing. We're going direct to them. And we want to build this brand. They buy a computer. What comes installed on most of the computers that are purchased?
You're asking the wrong person, but I'm assuming something that that's easy to use and it's already ready to go for them.
Yes. So as soon as they click on their search engine, which is likely going to be whatever extension comes with their computer, if it's Explorer or whatever else, the pre-configured search engine is going to be Bing. And every time they go through a system update, it's going to take them back to Bing. Do you think they know how to change the search engine? No.
Okay.
So we can throw all of the money at Google advertisements that we want, and we're not going to find them. We're not going to find them there. Are we going to find them on Facebook? Probably. But Facebook is for family. It's for connecting. It's not the place to put out your hard ads on, truck parts. If you work in a truck parts store, it's not the place to do it. People aren't there for that. They're there to connect with their family and their friends. They're looking for personal connection. So that's a great place to put up some videos about fly fishing all over the world and interview, people who build their own fishing poles. That's a great place to do that. Not a great place for a hard sell. They're looking for a sense of community. Build the community. So how does social media tie into search engine optimization?
That was my next question. I actually wrote it down here.
I'm interviewing myself. I'm sorry. I that's how this is going to go. And everybody gets really uptight about their social media stuff and how often should I post and when should I post and where should I post? Well, who are you looking for? Tuesday at 11 a.m. is actually a phenomenal time. And when that airs, across the nation, that's going to give you a hitch in your giddy up, because it's 9 a.m. here, it's 8 a.m. in California, and in New York, we're sitting at 11, and that's fantastic. But why is Tuesday at 11 a good deal? When was the last time you got to work on a Monday morning and were done catching up on emails by 11? Never. But Tuesday, yeah. Tuesday, things kind of start simmering down a little bit. And by about 10 a.m., after you've gotten to the office, you've got your coffee, you've got your computer started, you're sitting down, or home office, anywhere else, usually Tuesday by 11 o'clock, your brain is ready for somewhat of a break. That's why Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. is a great time. You're going to have higher activity levels on the social media platforms. People are trying to distract themselves and dream about Friday. They're looking for some inspiration to get through the work week. Great time to do that. But here's the problem. If I make a post on a social media account at 11 a.m. on Facebook, and I have little interaction, and a lot of people have struggles with this because they'll make a post and nobody sees it. There's no exposure. That's because of let's say you have 1,000 followers, about 40 of them are going to see your post for 4 minutes. That's it. And then it's gone. And those are high numbers, and that's being very generous. So you have no more than 4 minutes before that post is buried behind everybody else's memes about Biden. It's just not going to stay relevant for long. So consistent posting, or what we call reuse, is where you're posting to your account, you remove the post, you repost, you remove the post, you repost, but you track the analytics point A to point Z. So how do you manage that? You can't obviously be sending Facebook posts all day long, every day. The way you manage that is by getting a scheduler. Buffer's got a free one. I use one called Meet Edgar, which is actually great. It'll spin the content for you and repost information. So let's say you write a blog and you post it to your social media, you want it to get really good exposure. It will parse your blog for you, create variations, and submit it. I'm not selling anything here. I'm just giving you a lot of different options. Canva, which is pretty great for building good looking social media posts, which need to be image driven. Content needs to be almost second, but is important. It's a great place to build those. Again, it's free and it has a built-in scheduler. So do yourself a favor and build a schedule for that. Now, if those posts are disappearing every 4 minutes from the 40 people on your Facebook page, what are the odds that Google is crawling all of that information and picking it up?
Can't imagine.
Slim to none, nor do they care about what you ate for dinner. They don't care unless there's a thread with a tremendous amount of impact, and that would be inside of a group, not your Facebook page, but a group that you build around your brand. Then there's some good potential for picking that up, kind of like Reddit, and that will be highly impactful for you. If you can generate conversation with your target market, it will gain exposure on its own. It's going to take time to build the right people. You can go buy followers. You can even buy engagement. You can buy reviews, but they're not authentic. They don't re-engage, and that's all tracked in the algorithm. So save your money and just be real and do it slowly. Boost your posts. It's really cheap. It's really, really cheap on your ad return. A lot of people have pulled out of boosted posts, but you're guaranteed to get more exposure, and you should be building an audience that looks like your buyers. So that's done by installing a pixel code. Now you've created a connection from your website, which is likely also tracked with analytics, to your social media page. Analytics is recently updated where you can actually tie in multiple assets into your analytics, such as if you have an app or secondary pages, you can mark those as the same property and track users all the way through. It's called G4. Upgrade your analytics. You'll be glad that you did. The reports are amazing. They're actually very, very cool. Well done, Google. High five to you. But as far as what it's going to do for you on your search engine optimization to post incessantly and obsess in a crazy manner to your social media pages, all you're going to do is irritate the few people who actually do follow you.
Okay.
Yeah, stop it. Add value. Find something that adds value. Set up a schedule for yourself. So for instance, there's a driving school that I set up a schedule for very recently after doing a tremendous amount of research in Australia about what people want to see. When it comes down to driving, people want to know how to pass their test. They want to save money, and they want to see other people wreck and laugh about it. So
I have to admit, I love golf cart fails.
Right? They're so fun. Australian wrecks are crazy. They hit one of their giant pine cones there. Everything's trying to kill you in Australia. Hit a giant pine cone and the car goes flying off a bridge in the ocean. I mean, it's sad, and everyone's fine, thankfully, but that's good entertainment, right? So now we've created kind of a following around Must Have Monday, we're saving money, Watch Out Wednesday, which are safe driving tips, which are actually very valuable, but they're backed by shared content from other people, such as YouTube or other people's websites where they put these epic fails up, which is great for them, and it builds a sense of community around you. And then we have Friends and Family Friday. Friends and Family Friday has to do with the authenticity of the brand itself. These are people who have left real reviews that we're highlighting. Wait, so I go into Google, see a review that has been written by somebody, track them down to their Facebook account and tag them in it. Immediately when I create that post for Friends and Family Friday, now I've actually integrated somebody else into the post. So it's not just my 10% or 40% or whatever percent is going to see this post, it's also theirs. That's going to show up on their wall for all of their people. And if this is a customer that has converted and I'm tagging them in a post, now we've created the herd identity. And the herd identity is the guilt by association. If this individual is passionate about fish cups, it's very likely that they have individuals that are passionate about their fish cups as well. That cost me $0 in about 5 minutes.
Wow.
Do that for exposure, and that will save you on ad spend tremendously. People who are converting from Facebook, they will get some gravity from the Facebook feed itself, but the most important social media platform you can post to right now is Google My Business. And nobody
you're just like rolling with the questions I was just going to ask you.
Yes, Google My Business is going to be the most important. I would be happy. I've got a document that I created. It's huge, but I'm happy to share it with you, and you can post it somewhere and everybody can download it, that talks about it's basically a user case study on every single platform, including Pinterest, which is very much so overlooked. These are your dreamers. These are the people who are motivated. They're looking for next steps, process. They're looking for inspiration. They're building a mood board. And some of it's for business, some of it's for personal. But that would be a great place. Pinterest people tend to like fishing too. They're dreamers and they like reprieve from their own thoughts. So they gather everybody else's until they have one, which is great. But your age ranges, use case, how much time they spend on social media platforms, it's going to be very important. But Google My Business doesn't have a lot of studies behind it at this point because it's relatively new. Again, it is Google's play on trying to compete in the world of YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, which is a lot harder to do, but there is a place to actually create posts. So if you're doing one for Facebook, you're doing one for Instagram, post it to your Google, because you're going to get exposure there that will actually create more gravity than anywhere else. Because keep in mind, that's still a Google product. So if you have viable posts that people are spending time reviewing and seeing, you're doing Google a favor by keeping people on Google, which is a win. Just play nice, guys. Just get along. You can find out what you want, but until you just quit resisting and lean into it and find a way to leverage that, it's going to kick your trash because somebody else is going to do it. They have changed the best practices of Google. If you guys haven't been listening this far, please listen right now. Please listen right now. Google changed their best practices for Google My Business several months back, and not a lot of people are aware of this yet. So if you are a service-based business and you're very localized and your brand name is something completely obscure that has nothing to do with your service, which is totally fine if you're creating identity, you can actually put the area you provide services in behind your business name. That used to be a huge penalization. Now, do not make a list of all of the suburbs or regions or zip codes. Don't do that. There's a place for that in Google My Business. But if you operate in Ontario, put Ontario behind your name. Do it. Because everybody's looking for near me, and everybody's looking for something close. And if I search for pizza near me, I'm going to get local results. If I search for pizza, I'm going to get local results. They may be a little bit different and a little bit varied between those two searches because I'm repeating the search, which means it didn't give me what I wanted the first time and I'm trying again. So they're going to repopulate those terms to try to give me something else. But put that behind your name. Optimize your Google My Business. Add your services, add your products with images. And when you save the file, save it with a keyword in it.
Copy that.
So all you WordPress
Keywords
people
with images.
Yes, all of you WordPress people, when you upload an image to WordPress, in the code itself, it saves the name of the file. It's a great opportunity for you to put in all of the misspellings that people use. And more often than not, the misspellings have far less competition because nobody wants to look incompetent by putting that in an H1 tag somewhere. And some words are harder to spell than others. So for instance, driving school near me seems like the obvious answer, but there's actually more searches for drive school and driver school, and nobody competes on those. Do some research and think about it. And also keep in mind that the way people search has changed a lot because now we do voice to text. So instead of your short tail keywords, because people don't want to type too much, now we have our long tail keywords where they say, hey Google, what is the best company for installing blinds in my house? They're having a conversation. It's all conversational. So you need to do the same. You need to converse back by offering that same type of language.
That's interesting. I was waiting for your A pod there to pop up and be like, so this is what you should have.
There's a lot of technology and there's a lot of moving parts. And when you get into the nitty gritty, it's a great idea to have somebody at least do an analysis for you. If you're already established and you're already in business, your website is up and running, don't go tearing the whole thing apart to boil it down to 1 or 2 pages. Okay, don't do that. You don't necessarily want to completely upset the system. And I've spent a ridiculous amount of time converting websites from WordPress or Shopify or even Google pages or Wix. Wix, do not get a Wix site. If you're on a Wix site, call Cheryl immediately. I'm begging you. But converting those websites over to make sure that we don't lose any gravity behind the search engine optimization. I call it juice. So SEO juice, you don't want to lose that. But we started talking a little bit about reputation before we walked into social media, and getting shared across social media will help you to some degree. But if reputation is everything, what does that look like? Well, if you were in high school, and I'm sure all of you have had one of these really fun, awkward conversations that you look back on and hate yourself for, but great, I'm going to poke at it a little bit. And you're looking at the football team or the cheerleading squad, and you're like, yeah, I'd give her a 6. I think she's a 4. Really, man, a 6? Right? Everyone has a ranking.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So do websites. Websites have a ranking also. It's called your domain authority. It's a number between 0 and 100, although that's pretty rare. Typically, even your big banks and corporations will sit at about a 99. So how they gain domain authority is by reference. So if you're going to hire me to come and work for you and you say, okay, I want you to send me 3 references and have them call this number. And my mother calls you 3 times. how much credibility does that provide to me?
Doesn't lend a lot of credibility at that point.
Right.
So
exactly.
what do you recommend instead?
Well, the French ambassador, the president of the United States, and Stanford would be great.
Wow.
That would be fantastic. But those are all high domain authority resources, right? So that's an exchange. You're looking at a chunk of real estate on somebody else's property that has a link that goes directly to you. Now, not all links are created equal, because people will go and they'll get all of these emails about buy backlinks now, buy your backlinks here, and then you get the backlink and you track it back to where it was installed, and it's sitting on a website that is full of nothing but spam. The link is there. They have provided the service to you. The link is there, but it's not just a referral from your mom. It's a referral from your PO officer because you just got out of prison for your third time. And it doesn't look good. It doesn't bode well for what you're trying to build and create. So when you're looking at backlinks and your references to your website, typically what that will be, and the best way to do it, is through what's called blogger outreach. Blogger outreach is when you curate or have content curated for an associated industry or project or idea or influencer. Influencers are a big deal right now, but some type of opportunity inside of your industry with somebody who has high domain authority. Now, this is a lot of research, people. And then you provide the content in exchange for link placement. That's a permanent placement. It's not going to come off when you stop paying your monthly bill to the firm that you hired because so-and-so said that you should and they were cheap. As soon as you stop paying those people, they're going to pull all of your links down and your website's going to crash. And it's going to crash over the course of the next couple of weeks, which means when you hire a real firm to come in and help you, or you start managing it yourself, you're going to see this. And the first thing that everybody does is run back to the firm, who immediately replace the links that they have took down or broken and bring you back up slowly and gradually. It's a way to manipulate your emotions, just like the stock market. You watch it go up and down. If it starts going down, everybody wants to pull out or do something drastic and change because emotionally they can't handle the roller coaster ride.
So what's at the end of that? What's at the end of that decline? How do we get back up in a positive manner that's sustainable?
If you have penalized yourself by trying to shortcut, then you're going to start from ground zero. You're going to start from, and ground zero is anything from the second page on. When was the last time you loved your mom enough to go to the second page of Google when you typed in best Mother's Day gifts? Yeah. When was the last time you remember ever going to the second page other than Googling yourself?
That's interesting.
Yeah, never. You're not going to do it. So if you're on the second page, you're a beautiful billboard on the moon. And that's going to vary and fluctuate. Maybe you'll hit number 10, maybe you won't, but people aren't scrolling, and you're likely going to have some ad spend while you level out what the issue is. And that's going to be a matter of going into Webmaster Tools through Google, resubmitting your sitemap, doing a re-index on your positioning, and making sure that you've got some fresh content for them to re-index to give you some gravity. The pages that you penalized are going to need to be scraped essentially for any broken links and remove those links, which can be done. Searchconsole.google.com or webmaster.google.com. It's a little bit tedious right now to navigate that system because they want to tell you all about SEO, but there is some good information on there as soon as you hit that homepage. But log into your domain, make sure that you're registered with Webmaster Tools, not only on the www version, but the non-www version, to specify which one you're actually using and tell Google which one you want it to crawl, and then go through and see what's broken. And that may be thousands of links. That may be one or two that are really hurting you, but it will tell you the domain authority of the site that the link is coming from. And sometimes it's better served, if you're going to make a big transition, to go in and check that before you do it, So you have a baseline report of what's happening in your world, and you can also track variations moving forward to make sure you're staying on top of it. You need to pay attention. So the bottom of that decline, and the reason for the decline, may not even have anything to do with links. It may be an algorithm update, or you may be re-indexing. So every once in a while, Google will go through your site. They'll pull your sitemap again to make sure the links are still relevant. See if you have any 404 dead pages. If you do or if you don't, but either way, during a re-index, you're gonna have a dip. You just are. If you go and change more than 2 pages on your website that are static cornerstone content, so that's going to be your home page, about page, services page, contact page, locations page. If you go and change a bunch of your cornerstone content, it's likely that you're going to go through an index, either small or large. But you can also force a reindex. You can say, Google, I want you to look at everything. I want you to look at everything and do it all over again, rather than waiting for it to happen. Instead, you're just hitting it right on the money.
Okay, fair. So you've covered an incredible amount of content in almost an hour, and I feel like that had I jumped in a little bit, we could have dived deep into a couple of different things. So saying that, there's been so much information. How do people get this kind of help? Because I know that a lot of what you've explained today, it's not in my it's not something that I'm really great at. That's why I go to experts like you. So how do people like myself or small businesses take that information that we've just shared with them and make it so that they can actually use it? Is it hiring somebody like you? Is it finding a different expert? Is it breaking it down into small, simple steps in some other manner? Like what can small businesses like me right now take and run with?
All right. So what I've come to understand about running businesses, having run plenty of my own for a very long time, and having been in this situation on more than one occasion, the one thing you need to understand is nobody loves your business as much as you do. Nobody cares about your business as much as you do, not even your highest paid employee, although they have more invested interest in your success than an outside firm. So as much as this is damaging to the good people out there who are doing marketing along these lines, which is a very, very expensive expenditure. So when you're in a mid-tier on a business, you're in a growth pattern and a growth trajectory where you've hit a run rate where you know you either have to expand or scale back because you're walking that fine line between overhead and decision making. My recommendation is if you're a medium-sized business, if you've got a handful of employees and you have a dedicated admin staff that you plan on keeping, invest in your people. Invest in your people by giving them a task or an opportunity to assume the role of management. It's not a full-time job at that stage. The initial optimization is, but the ongoing contribution is not. So you're going to be money ahead by putting one of your staff members through a training program, or dedicating X amount of hours to learning, or maybe even bringing in a consultant like myself to do the training for them or do the walkthrough for them so they understand what they're after. But I would absolutely, if I was in that position, I would train someone on my own staff to assume that role and responsibility. Why? Because I have control. I have control over what is going up, what is going out, the information that's being provided, and that's important. And I know that the individual who's doing it takes care and consideration because I've communicated that and conveyed it. Outsourcing that can happen, but never for content and never for social media posts. Because as soon as you make a social media post that doesn't have clean English, you're losing buyer trust. You're losing customer trust. So unless you're spot checking everything or just having creative outsourced, I wouldn't. Keep it in-house. Find somebody who cares about you, cares about your business, that works for you, that's going to be there for the long haul. Even if it's a family member that's interested in doing it, that's going to keep up with it and maintain it. Cool. So make a decision about that, but build a plan. Build a plan for yourself, how much you want to invest. There's a lot of really great resources for blogger outreach. My favorite is actually called Fat Joe. It's out of the UK, but you can buy blogger outreach and you can set the domain authority for the link that's going to be brought back to you. So you're buying a business reference, but it's authentic. So it'll be a blog in your industry that links back to you with keywords. So I'm sure you've noticed some people will just put a link on their site where it says www.domain.com, but you can actually hyperlink text. And if you hyperlink fishing knickknacks, and that goes back to Bob's Fishing Cups, now you've created some weight around fishing knickknacks or fishing gifts from somebody else's website who's saying, hey, you should look here for fishing gifts. And we're telling the crawlers. So hire someone internally, make a plan for yourself, and then quantify that with actual conversions. And your conversions may be different than somebody else's conversions. If that's people spending time on your website or watching your podcast, that's what your conversion is. And that those are eyes on the prize. And for somebody else, that may be a credit card swipe or an appointment that's booked. But determine what your conversions are and then quantify your results of your behavior on those rather than the daily variability of your SEO.
Interesting. Coming all the way back to that very first few minutes of our, that variability. So do you recommend any training programs for small businesses? Say, yeah, I'm there. I've got somebody that I know I can trust, that they're going to do a good job, but they just need the information. Are there training programs that you recommend to learn the stuff that we've talked about today?
So they're steep. Some of them are better than others, and it depends on what you're looking for. So Hootsuite actually has a training program that they have built in. I think it's like $200, which is relatively inexpensive considering what it costs. My training program is an 8-week, pretty intensive, where we split the mustard right down the middle, and we say, okay, I'm gonna build this plan, but then I'm gonna show you how I built the plan. And then I'm gonna implement on this page, and you're gonna implement on this page. And it's like homework. We meet once a week and we go through everything, and by the time we're through it, the entire site is optimized.
Tell me a little bit more about your program.
It's expensive. It's okay. Expensive. And my hair normally isn't done, and there's usually dead coffee cups on everything. But that's fine because I'm a real person and will get real work done. So nobody seems to care. But essentially what it looks like is we do an onboarding for the client to do an initial review over their business. We have the conversation about, do you have a mission statement? Do you have, any cornerstone content or anything that you feel strongly about that you want your customers to know? And then we go through what I refer to as the perfect customer scenario, because most people don't know who their perfect customer is. But if I were to say to you, okay, Cheryl, today at a premium time when your brain is fully on, you're fully caffeinated, and the day is just rolling and you're on it, you feel great, your phone's going to ring and it's going to be your perfect client. Who is that? Who is it? What do they want from you? And what are they willing to buy and why? And we go through that scenario to break it all down. Then I do a lot of top level research, which really only needs to be done once for your business. If it's done right and it's done well, it's done once, along with building a brand book behind your business. And maybe that's some revamp along the way, where we have a discussion about, look, your logo is severely outdated and people are afraid of it. That happened with an ENT clinic that I worked with. It was the most terrifying skull, like half nose thing. And I'm going, guys, no, everyone's afraid of the COVID stick up their nose. And you guys think this is a good idea? We're changing this right now. Sometimes it's those conversations which can inhibit progress, but also gives us a task list of things to do. So initial consultation, initial market research, initial buyer persona, which is going to be the psychology behind their consumer and how we need to structure that language. Then we meet again. And at that point, we go through, these are your keywords, these are your competitors, and this is where I got the information from. And this is a report that tracks all of it. Congratulations, here you go. You can keep up with it or you can not keep up with it, but this is the information that you need. And this is why it's important. And we break all of that down into very finite details. And as you can tell, I just talk and talk and talk, but I'm used to being the one in front of the classroom teaching people things. So I don't wait for hands to go up. Nobody does that anymore. They just text it. But essentially we break that down and then we go through implementation. So on live screen share, I show them how to change a meta tag title, how to add an alt attribute, how to create an internal web of links to your own website. So from your homepage, you should link to all of your cornerstone content, which is important. If you have 3 priority services, those should be on your homepage. And your specials should be somewhere as an incentive, but not at the top, because all I care about at the top of this page, who you are, what you do, where you do it. That's it. That's all I care about. And we need to find a really cool way to display that on a website and on a cell phone. AMP pages, at some point, we'll have to talk about mobile friendly pages and why that's probably killing you right now. For most people who have old websites, if it's not mobile responsive, you're screwed. If it doesn't have an SSL, you're also screwed. About 4 years ago, and get on it, honky. It's not that big of a deal to get an SSL. Contact your hosting provider, they'll put one on for you, but do that. So anyway, we go through all the nitty-gritty details about everything that's wrong and why, and then we leverage that. So after I do the first round, then their project is to go through a less priority page, we'll put it that way, such as maybe a blog post, which has its own meta tags, its own H1s, images, and they are to optimize that. And we can either do that during screen share if they get scared and lost, or we can let them roll with it, and then we figure out what they did wrong and what questions they had along the way. People don't learn by watching. And I can explain it a million times over and over again in every different way, but until you're doing it, if Google's telling you the directions to get there, you're not going to know how to get there by yourself. So sometimes you got to get in the driver's seat. You've got to turn off your directions and you've got to just look at the street signs and drive. That's what you have to do. And we just give you the address to get there. And then at the end of that 8-week period, then we monitor it very closely to see any activity or any behavior, or any changes that have been done, and stay online for consultations for, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? And we become friends.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what happens after that? So say it's like 2 years after your program, what's happening with your client and your company?
Sure. So I have clients from years and years and years ago that I still track their data on. And because it becomes your baby when you invest that much time into telling your story the right way, and the pages that you write on, it's kind of like your own personal public diary, not in a Facebook way, but in a very literal sense. And so you keep track of that, how it's doing, and what the changes and transitions are. So every once in a while, people get an email from me that says, hey, had this brilliant idea this morning and wrote it on my mirror. If everybody has a mirror in their bathroom, get a dry erase marker and keep it in your bathroom and write on your mirror your ideas that come up while you're pooping or showering, because that's when the best ideas happen. And just write it on your mirror, and it becomes a concept board for you that you can circle back around on, and let all of those thoughts that happen in your mind, they're abstract, it's a Picasso. But as soon as you write it out, and it comes right off, no big deal. But as soon as you write it out, then it actually becomes a tangible thought. So do that for your brand, do that for new innovations and new ways to connect with your clients, or new products that you might want to try selling, or anything else, and then do the research behind it. So 2 years from now, I still care, probably entirely way too much, and want to make sure that people win. But if somebody calls me in 2 years and says, hey, I want to look at this again with all the new changes, or are there new changes, we can roll through the cycle again to do the top level research if they need assistance with that, or a consultation along the way. And then that boils out into just whatever the project looks like.
So how do people find you or your company to be able to say, oh my God, this seems just like over my head. I know that this is awesome. I want this, but I don't know that I have the time or the capacity to do it. How do we find you?
Okay, so that's always a really fun question. People who do for others do not do for themselves. I stopped advertising for myself a very long time ago because I have way more work than I care to even admit to, and so I don't necessarily advertise, but I am available by referral or reference, which I guess technically, here you go. You can email me. So my name is Carrie May, M-A-E, and obviously the fly fishing situation comes into play. And one of the best flies to fly fish with in late fall is a mayfly. So you can reach me at Carrie, C-A-R-R-I-E, at the T-H-E May, M-A-E-F-L-Y.com. As a direct email. There is no link there. Good luck finding it. That's just my personal email for business consulting stuff. If people would like to reach out or ask any questions, feel free. The platform that we are taking around the world, we hit 2 more countries, by the way, is bookingtimes.com. And you can reach me at extension 8 there anytime. I work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's an Australian-based company. So right now it's 4 a.m. in Australia, and I'll be working until 6 p.m. Australian time. So cheers.
Cheers. I'm gonna have to send you another mug, like 3 times the size of that one.
Wait.
There's another one. There you go. Refills.
Yeah. Stanley coffee press. If you don't have one, get one.
Excellent. I have the last one, but that one looks a little bit more sturdy.
Yeah, it looks like the old school Stanleys. That's what I was after. Again, now I'm camping and fishing right here with you.
It is a beautiful day when you can camp and fish.
And it's black, so I don't have to go to the gym for 5 hours to deal with it, but I should probably put on my tennis shoes so I can do that too. Hoka, just saying.
You'll get there. You'll get there. Well, this has been awesome. I'm sure that the people in this group are really appreciative of all the information that you've shared with us. And so the people in this group, I'll make sure that that contact information is below this live, and go ahead and reach out to myself. DM me if you want. Carrie May is available for picking up new situations, new clients. So we're gonna have to try to figure out how to expand your business so you can handle all of that work.
Fortunately, I finally brought on some people. When it's your baby, you have a hard time trusting anybody to do anything. So I have parsed out my entire business into very specific components that I trust people to carry out individual tasks. So I actually have a robust team behind me at this point who can handle a tremendous amount, especially through the Booking Times platform. If you're a service-based business and you need scheduling, then this is my shameless plug for not fighting with any WordPress update ever again in your life ever, and streamlining your life and being able to schedule that out so you have a work-life balance. And if that's something that you need or would be advantageous, you don't have to have an online schedule. But keeping your business life separated from your personal life can absolutely happen there. And the gravity behind the platform with search engine optimization is, I work there. So every single website that is curated or brought to life on the Booking Times platform is already technically perfect.
So I can attest to that. I know that a couple of our mutual clients have I helped them switch over to Booking Times, and their visibility on the web, the clientele that's coming in, high quality. So they've seen a tremendous increase in quality of leads that are descending upon on their multiple locations. So highly recommend Booking Times, highly recommend Carrie May.